Hello and welcome back to the AFL Enjoys podcast. My name is Dean, joined once again by the boys, fellow enjoyers of the AFL, James, Matsa and George Sfenda. How's it going, boys?
Yeah, no, fantastic, mate. Yourself?
Love and life, baby.
Doing okay. So we're going to get into another ranking, this time of the small defenders. So anyone on the AFL app who's listed as just general defender, not key defender, is who we're ranking here, and also doing it from the year 2020 onwards. So,
Yes, so we've got 2020, 2021, 22, and then the part of the 2023 season that we've seen so far. That's our sample size, and we'll make our rankings based off of that.
absolutely. So top 10, we'll start from 10 and work our way down. Matza, take it away, mate. Who's your
All
number
right.
10?
Here is where I have the man, DH.
Nice.
Dan Houston. Just as a context, I've got my guys' initials because I couldn't be bothered writing their whole names. I wasn't sure who DH was. I had to ask the lads.
Kind of spoiled his position on the list pretty quickly.
I know. So we got Dan Houston, and Dan Houston, he's got such a penetrating kick. He can run through the guts a little bit when needed. He gets involved in scoring chains very often. Just a very underrated, undervalued player in the league. And he's getting a bit more recognition this year, I would say, 2023. People are starting to notice his contributions to Port Adelaide. So, yeah, he hits the number 10 spot that I was really unsure about.
Nice.
Fair enough. So my number 10 spot is probably something that when I finish the list, I'll regret. But that's the way to start a list. Isn't it? I've got, you guys are going to think, I've got Jack Sinclair here. Now, this is my explanation, right? Jack Sinclair is a brilliant player, and he's probably the Saints' best player. But this year, he's actually more of a midfielder than a defender. And last year is when he came into his own and announced himself to the competition, and he played off the halfback, and he was great. And maybe I'm doing a little bit more of the letter of the law, but as a defender, he's really had one great season. And so that's the only reason he's low on this list. It's not, and that's why you could probably, the way that you read the list, the way that you interpret it, you could definitely put him higher, because as an individual halfback player, he is probably better than some of the, in fact, he's definitely better than some of the players I've got above him. But
Yeah.
purely just on the if we're looking at the period from the 20s to the 2023, I kind of want to spread, some of the players that have played in that position for longer and have a little bit more sample size. But I guess my preface will be, or my caveat would be that Sinclair's a gun, and he probably deserves to be higher, but that's how I'm looking at it.
No, I actually kind of agree with the logic there. So I've got Dan Houston at 10. Similar reasons to what Matza said. Do you think he's a shout for All-Australian this year? As a
Yeah, I
small
think so.
defender?
I think so.
I was too
I do.
cowardly to put him in my mid-season All-Australian team, and I regret that.
Yeah, me too.
Honestly, I think I put Sinclair ahead of him or something like that. It should have been him.
It's one of those ones
time.
where, because the national media doesn't talk him up that much, you sort of feel a bit like, oh, do I want to be the guy that praises him when maybe
Go out
people
on a
won't
limb.
agree? Go out on a limb,
Go with
you
your
know?
gut, man. You got to.
Well, the fact is, boys, I mean, this guy's been pretty consistent. I mean, this year he's getting the recognition. Maybe he's stepped it up a half notch.
But the funny thing is, this year he's actually not playing as much of a halfback role. He's playing more up the ground, more wing, more centre as well. So that's one of the reasons why it seems like he's being more damaging.
Yep.
Because he's kind of going closer towards the 50. So again, it's one of those things with halfbacks is you kind of want, or we're saying halfbacks, but small defenders, how you may measure how good they are is just how much impact they have up the ground.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
He's having that for sure.
For sure, man. And to start the next round, so I've got at number 9, Jack Sinclair. So pretty much word for word what you explained in terms of why he's not a bit higher. Obviously, his talent's not the reason, but he only really played one standout season predominantly as a defender.
Like, who was he before 2022?
Maybe Saints fans can let us know, but I wasn't really noticing it much. So he was just another one of the Jacks at St Kilda as far as I was concerned. So, like we've said, he's probably a bit more talented than some of the guys above him, but for that reason, I've just got him at 9 there. But curious to know how you guys went from here on out. So who's your number 9, George?
I've got Houston. So we've all kind of put Houston kind of around the same spot.
Yeah.
And we've talked about him a little bit, but I think he's been a consistent player for many years. Probably underrated a little bit. I'm not sure if he's ever been All-Australian or not, to be honest. Dan Houston.
Dan Houston.
I
I
can
don't think
quickly
he
check.
has. I don't think he has yet.
But whatever the case is, he's been a consistent halfback player that's contributed well to his team. He's always been an efficient kick, and he's always been a high meters gained player, and I think he deserves to be in the top 10 list.
I like it. Here's one where I don't know if you guys will have him or not, but this is a dude who he's very much. He can be a Mr. Fix-It type guy. It depending on what the team needs on the day is where he plays. Whether it's dashing defender, whether he's playing on a small or key forward, whether it's in the guts. It's Braden Maynard. He makes my list at number 9.
Yeah, I love Maynard.
He was an All-Australian as well. Just a very understated player. Goes about his business. Plays pretty much every game as well. That's really why he made the list. Is just that consistency, and he also just does his job really well for Collingwood.
I like it. He's not on my list. I did consider him for a half second, but there was a lot of guys that are just blocked up for me, and I just went with my favourites. So totally get it though. I mean, he's a great player.
Yeah,
you watch Collingwood play, and then you notice him, but no one else really talks about him outside of game time for the Pies, really. So, no, I rate it better.
All right, so my next one, it took me forever to figure out what it was. It was LR. I'm like, who's LR, man? Who's LR? It's Lukey Ryan.
Yeah, Luke Ryan.
Okay.
Lukey Ryan.
You need to write the names out, Matsa.
I know. I'm struggling here, man. Like, I'm quizzing myself. Anyway, Luke Ryan, this year specifically, he's been crazy this year. Like, just loading up the stats, kicks, marks, intercepts really well. And he's done that really, he's done that for every game of since 2020, I'll say. But he's really, it's almost like there's a bit more of a spotlight on him this year. And a guy who doesn't miss many games, ultra consistent. I like the fact that he kicks way more than he handballs. That's always something that's I rate very highly in a player. He goes on my list at number 8.
Nice.
Okay, so I've got a guy, a personal favourite of mine, Bailey Dale. Now, I don't know if you guys have Bailey Dale.
I do.
I snubbed him.
You snubbed
Okay.
Bailey
Snubbed
Dale.
him.
I've got
I like Bailey Dale, but I couldn't fit him.
So
Could
I
not fit
think super damaging player. When he's at his best, he's dashing, he's penetrating kick, he'll cut you apart. The only thing I'd say about Bailey Dale is sometimes the Bevo salad doesn't allow him to play in his best position, because they do have a lot of kind of halfbacks. They've got Johannesson, Daniel, a couple other players that can go through there as well. When he's playing a pure halfback role, he is a gun. So I don't know if there's many players that forward would love leading to than Bailey Dale cutting through the halfback through the midfield and delivering inside 50. So that's my man.
He's my man as well, because I've got him at number 8. So
Very similar.
they are very similar.
Our
at the
ratings,
moment. I mean, this guy, he's not really heralded that much in the public media, but again, he just gets the job done. He's so consistent. When the Dogs are a good team, he's usually got a good role. And like you said, if Bevo just sticks to his...
allowing his players to play in the position that they should play.
That's it. It's frustrating, isn't it? But I think ultimately I can just accept that and look at him as a player and say, he's in my top 10 for sure. And number 7 is actually Matsa's boy, Luke Ryan. So
there we go.
Again, all these guys really so far, I could have mixed up the order and justified it, to be honest. But Luke Ryan, especially this year, I think, every time Freo is in a dominant position, especially last year as well, when they're playing good footy, this guy's intercepting. He can play tall, small, damaging kick, fun to watch. So that's why he's number 7.
All right, number 7 for me is my boy Adam Sard.
Hey,
So one of the more attacking defenders in the game. Probably, I'd say, at his best, and if Carlton allows him to play that game, the most attacking defender. Pinpoint accuracy with kicking, elite speed, and Carlton relies on him to solve a lot of problems in the back line and find ways out of the 50, and puts him in positions where not many players would be able to get the ball out, and he still does. So All-Australian last year, finally rewarded for his form. Maybe some criticism in his earlier years about how much of a defender he actually was. But I think at the time that he's been at Carlton, he's been good at both defending and then counter-punching. So I've put him in my list 7.
Nice. My number 7, I'm not sure if you guys will have him on your list. Very underrated player. He plays at a team who's very, very good, apart from this year and last year. But anyway, this guy, unheralded, Nick Vlosten.
Yeah.
He makes the list.
Interesting.
And Nick Vlosten makes the list. Similar to Maynard, he plays the role that's given to him. If he's the intercept defender, is he the lockdown defender, he does them all admirably. Yeah, so he was my chance, on a small defender list to give Vlosten a bit of
He's
love.
a very no fuss player. He just gets the job done. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. I'm curious if you guys have him on your list. I don't think you do.
I don't have Loston or Sard actually.
Or Sard. Wow.
I don't have Sard.
I had.
You have Vlosten?
I don't, but he was like 12th.
Oh, fair enough.
So he
There
was
we go.
in the conversation for me, but to be honest, my knowledge of him is just not that good.
Nah, fair enough. Fair
I'll
enough.
be honest, like I just don't know. Like he probably
It's your
might be
list,
better.
right? Like you need to have the guys that you know.
I don't want to sit there and pretend that like I've lost in Sagan or anything like that when I don't have that knowledge. I'm not saying that he is, and I respect him as a player. I know that he's good. But I just in my head, I just don't know him well enough. So
Yep.
Nah,
I
fair
don't have him
enough.
there.
All right, so that was my number 7. So now I'm going 8. And this is where I have
6. Yeah.
6. Oh, sorry. Anyway,
Math class.
Math Class 101. So 6, we have Sammy Doherty
Okay.
has made the list. I don't know if
I
that's...
don't have him.
You don't have him?
Oh wow.
Whoa.
He's on my list for sure, man.
Jeez.
I think it's a bit of recency bias, perhaps.
George, I think it's because, this year George hates
Remember,
Doherty.
he's missed a lot of football. Huh?
You know what, though?
During this period?
I looked at it and he hasn't missed that much.
2 knee recos.
But he's played. He's played games. I looked at the games and he's played.
Look, man, I'm not going to begrudge you for putting my boy on there, but,
Yeah, but
I don't have him.
Look, when Doherty plays, especially like last year, 2022, he's elite.
He was last year.
He's
Definitely.
incredible, man. And I think he'll always have that memory. Like I always have that memory of him going after that goal against it was against Collingwood on his comeback game. Or something.
Tigers.
Against the Tigers. Oh, you know what I mean? Like I just love Sam Doherty, man. He has to be on that list. Shocked you don't have him on there, man.
Yeah, look,
That's wild.
I
man.
might be punishing my own players because of their recent form. Look, the thing about Doherty is I've watched this guy for a long time, and at times he's been the most exceptional footballer, and at times he's been the most frustrating footballer. And that's due to before his knee recos, he was the type of player that all of Carlton's scoring chains would go through him, a bit like a Sicily, but he'd have like 30 kicks at 98%. Like his kicking ability was probably like as good as it gets. He's not that player anymore. He doesn't have that precision kicking. It did come back a bit last year. Last year, I say he had a great season as well, and his kicking was a bit more what it is, but at his best. But this year, not so good. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bit critical of Doherty because I'm pissed off that Carlton is not performing to the standard, and I've kind of favoured Sard over him. But I think if we're talking about all-time halfbacks or halfbacks in last century, I'd have Doherty there. In the recent period of the last couple of years, I don't think he's as good as the other players.
Fair enough, man.
Well, you know Carlton better than most of us.
Yeah.
Especially me and Matsa. So
But
That's
what
fair
did
enough.
he do 2020? I just can't remember. Or did he play 2020?
Man, I swear that he's played 14 games 2020 and about 16 games in 2021. That's what I remember when I was doing my list. But anyway, who's your number 6 though? We'll keep it going, keep it flowing.
that's you, George.
Number 6. So that was my number 6, Sam Doherty.
Oh, shit. I was talking so much. I thought I'd made my point.
Nah.
I've got...
Sam Doherty.
So I've got a list here, but do I change last minute?
No, stick to it. Stick to
I've got Jordan Dawson.
Oh, okay.
JD.
JD.
Great player. He's been moved into the midfield a bit more this year, but he's played primarily halfback throughout his career, so he kind of fits the bill. A beautiful kick, a good one-on-one defender and interceptor as well. Sets out to play for his team, and he's really kind of made a name for himself since moving to Adelaide last year or two. So, great player. I've just favoured some other people in front of him. That's all.
Fair enough. Now, my number 6, I'm certain you guys don't have him, or maybe I'm wrong. He only played 2020 and a little bit of 2021. So I'm going by, again, just my feeling of how I rate this guy.
Can we guess who it is?
Wait, so a player who played...
He's retired.
He played in 2020
Yeah, and
and
2021.
half of 2021.
And then he retired?
Yeah.
Ebert?
Bashar Hooley.
Basher.
Okay.
Did you say Ebert?
Yeah, Brad Ebert.
I mean, hey,
You know why? You know why?
Was it because of the old...
Yeah.
Back when we used to do... And,
he was a good Supercoach player at one point. Brad Ebert, mate. But yeah,
Wow.
I've got Bashar Hooley on my list. Now,
That's cool, man.
I like that pick.
Yeah.
again, it's hard when we're choosing players that are the best over a number of years. And again, like I said, he only really played one full season and then retired. But when I look back at this guy, leader, elite kick, good defender. You look at those Tigers premierships. This guy should have won a Norm Smith that one year where Dusty got it over him.
Yep.
And when he retired, it was sort of like people were shocked. I think he could have kept going, honestly, to this day.
He was elite, until the day he retired. So that's a great pick, man.
At one point, I actually had him a lot higher, but then I'm like, look, I'll have him there as a bit of a interesting pick, but I won't go too crazy with it. So he's at my number 6. Number 5, I've got Caleb Daniel. All right, so
snubbed from my list as well.
Really?
You didn't put Daniel in there.
I didn't put Caleb Daniel, man.
It's one of those
Big
ones, right?
snub.
Like, we're talking about defenders, and let's be real, this guy is not really a defender. He happens to play in the back half most of the time.
Yeah.
But you just look at the guy. I mean, his skills are incredible.
Yeah.
We've spoken about him on the main pod throughout the year, and for me, when you're that skillful and that good of a player, you've been in great teams in premiership games. I just think at some point you have to feature on this list. So that's why I've got him there at number 5.
Beautiful. Number 5, I've got Caleb Daniel.
Hey.
I like the Caleb Daniel pick. So he was an All-Australian in 2020 for halfback and played some slightly different roles throughout the years that followed. Primarily halfback, but some midfield, some wing, some half-forward stuff. Been moved around. You're right in the fact that he's probably not much of a defender because of his size and stature. Who's he going to go up against?
Exactly.
But his ability to pinpoint passes throughout and just kind of cut through players' zones is as good as it gets. For him to make it as a footballer at such a small size, he has to have obvious, really strong attributes. And his kicking, and I remember early on in his career, it was his decision-making that was what people were saying, like best decision-maker and best kick. And they set up a lot of their plays. He's been brilliant again this year. He's been consistent throughout the last couple of years, and I think he's a great player.
I feel like I've snubbed him. That's a bad snub on my end. I think that might be one of the worst snubbings at this point. But anyway, my number 5 was
That's snub of the year.
Snub of the year. Top 10 small defenders. No Caleb Daniel.
It's your list, Matsa. There's no hate here from us.
That's it, man. It is. The next one that I've got, so number 5, I have Adam Sard.
Okay.
And I think the thing that made him go a bit higher on my list than what Georgie had is that he's actually been elite as stat wise on intercepts this year and last year. Who would have thought? This dude who's considered not a great defender, more of an attacking defender. He's doing that as well. So you add that with his penetrating, running, his kicking, he's a fantastic player, man. Number 4, probably the best kick in the AFL. That's JD, Jordan Dawson. He hasn't played. Actually, this year he's played midfield, but his back end of his last season at Sydney was incredible as well.
Yeah, that's true.
That doesn't, that probably goes a bit, gets swept under the rug because, no one wants to watch, non-Victorian players and Sydney players, right? He's a fantastic player, man. Whether you have him at halfback, whether you have him doing your kick-ins, whether you're having him, in the midfield at the end of a chain where he's, the last person just to kick it into the 50. Yeah, man. He's become a leader now as well, becoming the captain of Adelaide after a year of being there. Yeah, he's my number 4.
Yeah, he's a very complete player, isn't he, Matsa?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. All right. So in number 4 for me, I've got the man with the smallest arms in the business, but one of the biggest kicks, Daniel Rich.
Oi.
So love Rich. I mean, he's been
Interesting.
around. He's been around for ages. Whether the last couple of years he's been at his best, I don't really care. I'm putting him on my list. He's a gun. He's been a big part of Brisbane's success. A bit of a shame that this year he hasn't been at that same level. It is towards the end of his career, or maybe even the final bit of his career. But put him up there just because I love him, and he's been around for a long time, very consistent, and multiple All-Australian, I think. So
I've got to be honest, I did not think of him. It's probably just the recency.
I think
there's a bit of differences, huh?
Yeah, I was gonna say. So, for me, snubbing Daniel, I think you snubbing Rich, that might actually be worse.
I honestly did not. His name didn't pop up in my head at all.
Wow.
So it's probably just the recency of it.
Yeah, he's not. He's not he's probably not a superstar anymore, right? But he has been for a very, very long time. So
I like it, George. Yeah, that's on me, to be honest.
Seriously, it's every year but 2023 he's been elite.
Yeah,
in my eyes.
And if you look at the Supercoach rankings, every year, Rich is at the top for the defenders.
But no one picks him.
Yeah, but no one.
no one picks him. He's too scary to pick.
No one
man.
picked him because he burnt everyone about 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. It's weird that, but yeah.
No, nice. That's on me, to be honest. At number 4, I've got Sam Doherty. So we spoke
There we
about
go.
him earlier. I
Doc.
mean, yeah, he's got the intercept, kicking skills. I know George, it's close to his heart. Maybe he's not having the best year, but for me as an outsider, I still look at Doherty as a pretty elite player.
Look, I probably should have him on my list, but yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So I feel like there we go. Each of us have a weird snub. Rich, Doherty, and Caleb Daniel
yeah,
that we all just overlooked.
it's bound to happen, to be honest.
Yeah, you can't fit them all in.
It's a little bit more of an interesting list, I think, because I think it's a little bit harder. It's very subjective. These
Exactly
type of
right.
these type
Yeah.
of defenders. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Doherty at 4. At 3, I've got Dawson. So yeah, we spoke about him already. All I'll just add really is I think he's probably the most complete player in the game at the moment in terms of defensive effort, skills, leader, big body, good overhead. I just don't think he has a weakness right now, to be honest.
If I was to give him a weakness, he's not that quick.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. But really, like,
doesn't
when
need
you're
to be.
that smart, and again, he's a good mark as well. Like, I forget that he's a good mark.
Yeah. Yeah, he
Yeah.
could be a bit more explosive if you're comparing him to some other players, but
Yeah.
I think now that he's playing midfield probably suits him, to be honest, to not... I mean, better if you're explosive, but it probably doesn't matter as much as when you're chasing around small forwards or something. So,
Yeah.
yeah, he's at 3 for me.
Nice. All right. This one is an interesting one. So I've got number 3, Braden Maynard.
Whoa.
And number 3.
He didn't react too much
I
when Matsa
like
picked him.
it. He raised me big time.
So
There
I
you
saw that. I'm
go.
like, ooh, can't wait. So look, Maynard
I like it.
was in the All Australian squad in 2020, and then made All Australian 2022. So to me, that says he's been amongst it, and every year he's kind of built. But I mean, I think we all agree he's a great player. But he's just the type of person that you'd want in your team. He's a mongrel. He's a leader. He'll fight tooth and nail. He's just as tough as it gets as a defender, and I don't see him lose many contests. Probably because other teams are scared to go near him. So I think Maynard is a brilliant defender, a brilliant halfback, and I'd take him very early if I was building a team right now, especially because he's coming into his prime.
It's another one I've left out. Again,
There we go.
did I think of him for a second, but I don't know. I mustn't watch enough Collingwood games
Yeah.
to rate him as much.
That's the thing. I was thinking, can you imagine if we had him instead of Zeeble or instead of Luke McDonald?
Think about how much of an impact this guy would have in your team.
Oh, huge.
I like it, man.
Yeah. Bravo on that one. Now, for me, number 3, big kick, small arms. Daniel Rich, baby. Daniel Rich, baby. He's in there at number 3. Man, apart from Dawson, he must be the second best kick. Like, that left foot is
That
golden.
left foot has done a lot of work.
A
in his
lot
time.
of damage, man. And
Yeah.
those flowing locks, and again, his arms, how is his arms so small?
I don't know.
He has a negative wingspan. What is he, 5'10", 5'6" wingspan or something? It's
I don't know. He probably can't get the mugs from above the jaw.
yeah, I might be able to reach higher than him, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
half a foot shorter than him.
You got to say some nice things about him as well, man. It's like, come on.
No, I don't. No, Daniel Richmond. It just all right. He
You
probably
know, if you
averages.
say if you don't use it, you lose it. He's been kicking for so long. His hands just shrunk. His arms just shrunk. He
True.
doesn't need
He
them.
doesn't need a hand pass.
He's lost the arms.
That's his lost arms. All right, I will say some good things. Elite kick. He gets a lot of them as well. So, and he sets up a team who's a great team as well. Brisbane have been a great team the last 2-3 years. So yeah, Daniel Rich, man, I'm shocked that Dana doesn't have him, man. He just
It's wild that you don't
It's
have
just
Richmond.
honestly, I didn't spend enough time researching the previous years, and I was mainly using premiership recency or who was in the flag versus who's playing well this year. And there's a few guys that slip between the cracks there, obviously. But if I could do it again, I'd have him in there somewhere.
Yeah. So I still number 3. Do I go? I go to number 2 now, don't I?
Yep.
Yep. All right. My number 2 is the seagull himself,
No.
Jakey Lloyd.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Jakey Lloyd is number
100%.
2. And man, I feel like last year, because he had a bit of a down year, we kind of just forgot how how much of a impact he makes. Well, he does actually. I don't even know if he does make an impact, but he gets a lot of kicks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's always at the end of he's always running around those key defenders who can't kick, getting more kicks, getting kick. In 2020 and 2021, he was He probably had the most disposals in those years, I'm guessing, for the home and away season. I didn't really research that far, but
without researching also, I agree with you probably.
yeah, he's a gun. So yeah, Jakey Lloyd number 2.
Nice man.
I didn't put Jake Lloyd in my list.
Oh.
What?
He's my snub.
That's a big snub.
What?
No, I'll tell you why. I didn't forget about him either. I actively
He had one bad year, not even a bad year. It was like an average year.
I actively chose not to put him in.
Wow.
No.
You said the seagull himself, and I don't know if I've ever respected Jake Lloyd as a player and as an impact.
Wow. Okay.
So we've talked about some great footballers, right? We've talked about like players like Dale who cut through and penetrate the lines of defense. Does Jake Lloyd do that, man, or does he just get possessions?
I'll make my comment when it's my turn,
Okay,
but
so
yeah.
I don't have Jake Lloyd. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments, but I don't have him. So I've actually got a man, number 2, Luke Ryan.
I thought you were going to say Luke McDonald for a second.
Luke Ryan is there purely for consistency. Since 2020, in the specific period of All-Australian, he has been equally as good every year. Super reliable, super good kick, extremely high meters gained. No fuss type of player out in the West, but he's just there because he's a solid rock. And I don't think anyone has anything bad to say about Luke Ryan. So I've put him there for consistency purposes and just high ceiling.
Yep. Fair enough. Here's my Jake Lloyd take now, and he's at my number 2 as well, right? So
Bravo.
Interesting, man.
you mentioned like he doesn't. Maybe you don't respect him as much as a footballer. You think maybe he just gets cheap possessions. I'll say this, maybe looking at it the other way. When Sydney's been a good team, which has been most years in the past, 4 or so years that we're talking about, Jake Lloyd is the calming presence. Like, he's probably one of the cleanest players in the league, always makes a good decision. He's actually a decent defender as well. You look at Sydney when they're competing for flags, and we go back a bit more even when they're playing against Hawthorn, and honestly, he's been consistent the whole way through, but they look for him because he does well. He never turns it over. He allows them to move the ball up the field. And like you said, with Ryan's consistency, I think it's Lloyd on steroids, to be honest. Lloyd's on steroids compared to that. So,
Preach, Theona. I love it.
So for me, could he be flashier? Absolutely. Like, Saad's got explosiveness that he'll never have. He doesn't have all the height in the world, but he's just, man, so consistent. I love the guy.
I'm going to just go get the humble pie off the windowsill for Georgie over here.
We'll talk about humble pie at some point.
Yeah. So that brings me to my number 1. I've got a feeling we've all got the same guy here. Tom Stewart. We'll just nod if we all agree.
Tom Stewart. How can you not pick Tom Stewart as the best?
I was a bit surprised he was defender, not key defender.
Yeah, I had him in the key defender list, and then I
had to change it. Yeah.
And I think, it's good that we kept it consistent and went by the AFL thing. But I think with him, it's similar to Sicily. It's like he only plays as like a lockdown defender if they really need someone to do that. Like, they really need him to do that. Yeah. Otherwise, man, he's just roaming around there, chopping up, bad kicks into the 50. He uses it well.
He reads the ball probably better than anyone in the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, reads the ball well. But then he's such a hard runner as well, man. You don't expect him to be
quick.
That.
Yeah, he's quick.
He is, yeah.
His leg speed is so underrated. And when you mix that with reading the flight, like you said, one of the best, most reliable contested marks in that defense. And his kicking skills are really underrated as well, to be honest. Like, he can move the ball around at will almost. So, yeah, it's a no-brainer. I mean,
he's as good as it gets.
He's as good as it gets, really. If you're Chris Scott, you never want him as a key defender. And other teams have to game plan for him every week, and he still plays well most of the time. So,
yeah, it's true, man. Who would have thought you'd have to game plan for a defender?
And he'll have like one bad game in 7 or 8, and it's not even a bad game. It's just less influential.
Exactly. Yeah.
Love it. Cool. Well, some interesting ones there. I mean, I'd certainly have a couple regrets, but honestly, it is what it is.
No, I like how we all went for slightly different picks and some big variances in orders. Like, I had Maynard at 3. You had him at like 10 or something.
9.
I didn't have him at all.
I had nothing at all, yeah.
Where did you have Luke Ryan?
It's higher up, 7 or 8.
Yeah, I had him at 8. You had him at 2.
Yeah.
7. Yeah.
No Jake Lloyd.
No Bashar Hooley love from either of you.
No, I like the Bashar Hooley pick.
Yeah, that's a good throwback.
We're going to go watch a few Jake Lloyd highlights now, but yeah, thanks everyone.
Let's put him up on the screen.
And
so
you
Georgie
know
can
Caleb
watch.
Daniel either.
I forgot about. Look, I didn't forget about Caleb Daniel. I don't know why I didn't put him in. To be honest with you, I think
that's the beauty of a top 10 list. Someone has to miss out, man.
Yeah, like Vlostan. I'd probably just swap him with Vlostan.
I think, yeah, maybe.
Gave up on Boston pretty quickly.
Well, look, I'll tell you what, there's probably a bit of controversial takes amongst the three of us. So let us know what you all thought. If you hate what we chose, if you agree with us that Jake Lloyd should be in the top 3 or 4, let us know.
Drop your own list as well, man. We'd love
Yeah.
to see him in the comments. And, we can see how it varies from ours, and maybe you'll make us all look stupid.
I won't rule that out because I didn't research too much. But yeah,
Gut feel is the way to do these lists, man.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
fair call. I feel like, because I don't know when these are going to be released, but like I feel like I have a better idea of how I'm going to plan for the next lists, because we did the defender lists first. Midfielders list might be on the way, and forward list might be on the way. We'll see.
And most importantly, the Rucks list.
And the rucks list, mate. The extensive top 50 rucks that we're going to do.
Aaron Sanderlands. is
Aaron
number one.
Sanderlands. Number
George's
one.
boy.
Bro retired in 2018, but he's probably still the best of the
it
probably
doesn't
still the
matter.
best of the 2020s.
Absolutely. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching and listening. Like Matsa said, leave your comments. Tell us who we snubbed, who you think should be included. Give us your list. But yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.